Hello everyone. In this video we will see how we can use the async-await syntax to run some asynchronous code in our controllers, and then we will fix the formatting issues. But first I would like to address a few things about the previous video. First one is this. In onPressEdit, like I mentioned, we don't need to use the type any here. Instead we can simply use optional chaining. And next we have this type any for our pattern matched event argument, and if you really don't want to use type any, we can quickly create our custom type. Under web app folder, let's create types.d.ts, and we can simply export a type. Let's name it details args equals. Then if we check our manifest file, we see that our argument is called user ID, which is a string. And now let's import this in our controller. It's a named export, so import something from, we go one level up to the types file, and that something is called details args. And instead of any, we can also use this. And one last thing, instead of this as syntax, what we can also do is, which is exactly the same, we can put it in between angle brackets here at the front of our argument like this, and it should also work. Now with this out of the way, let's go to our home controller, and we have some methods that we left. Let's uncomment these. And in this one, we are just lazy loading our dialog and then adding it as a dependent to our view and opening it. And we will do this with using async-await instead. So we will not use this callback function once the promise has been resolved. Instead, I will copy this part, and we will say this dot dialog equals fragment.load, and we will await this, and we can only use async-await, and we can only use the await keyword in async functions. So let's turn this into async, and the first complaint we get is dialog not existing, so we have to define it. Let's copy the name, and at the top of our class we can define it as a private property dialog, which will be of type dialog from the M library, so this one. Now let's go back, and we have, let's see, we still have an issue, and this is because fragment.load could return a single control or an array of controls, but we know that it will be a dialog, so we can say as dialog here as well. And next we have this issue about object being possibly undefined, but while we are at it, let's also store our view as a private property. So let me copy this, and here add another one, private underscore view, and it will be of type XML view from the MVC library, core MVC. And we have to set this, so initialize this, and we can do that in our own init method. So let's do that. Here we can say this dot view equals this dot get view, and it will again complain, and I fixed this typo, that this could also be undefined because this dot get view could return a view, or it might also return undefined, but we do know that it will not return undefined because we do have our home view. So here we can again say as XML view. Now let's copy this and change all occurrences of this with our new property. So this, And now let's see what we have. We have this if else for lazy loading. If this exists, we don't load it again. And we will do that using something called nullish coalescing operator. And to do that, we add 2 question marks before our equal sign. And what this will do is the right part of this operator will only be executed if the left part is null or undefined. So we get exactly what we have using this if else, using this operator. But to add our view as a dependent, we anyway have to check if this dialog is already added as a dependent. So let's add an if statement here, and we can check it by using this .oview index of dependent method like this. And the dependent we are looking for is this dialog, and this will return the index of this dependent, and it will return -1 if it doesn't exist. So we can say if this is less than 0, then we can say this oview at dependent, and this is now called this .dialog. And now with that also out of the way, the only thing left is to open our dialog. So let's copy this one. And now we can remove this old code. The next one, we don't have to do anything. And here we again have some issues with the types. First, let's create our action to make it a bit more readable, or our object binding. Let's say const, let's name it oAction equals, and it's this part right here. I will cut it and get this as data context binding, and again from data v4. And now we can call the invoke method on it. Here it's probably complaining about being undefined possibly, but we don't need this part anyway. We do have this .dialog, so let's switch this part. And now we should be good to go. Let me quickly check if the app is running. Yes. And let's see, we have the formatting issue, which is fine. Let's get 5 of the most expensive trips. Let's get 2. And looks like everything is working. Let's load it again. And we can already see it wasn't loaded again. And still works as expected. Now let's go back and fix our formatting issues. And we will use a different approach. So first let me remove these imports of our formatter from our controllers. And instead we will import those directly in our XML views. But first, let's convert our formatter file to Typescript. First we rename it. And this should be an easy one. We only have one import. It's the value state from the core library. So import that one directly. We can say import something from the core library. So let's copy this. And that something will be value state. And then we are simply returning a JavaScript object. So we can say export default object. And we have 2 functions inside the object. Let's copy them. And let's remove the function keywords. A state will be a string, and nothing else to change here except let's make this a const, and this one will also accept a string, and it will return the corresponding value state which we have already imported. Again, we don't have to, but we can set the return type as well as value state. Now let's remove the old code. Save, and the formatter is ready. Next, how to use it is we will go to our views. Let's start with the home view, and we will use the require syntax from the core library. So first let's import that. Equals SAP UI core. And what we are going to do is, let's first find where we use the formatters. It's only here for this one. And here we will use core column require equals, which will be an object. And inside, let's name it formatter with the capital F. And we will import it from, let's use the namespace of our app. Should be at the top. This one. And where is the formatter again? Here. And we will use slashes, of course, here. Then we go into our model folder and then the formatter. And now we can use this as our formatter. So instead of this, let's paste this, save, check the app, and now we can see the formatting. Let's also do the same. Let me copy this part for the detail view. And let's check. We have one formatter here. Let's paste this. And this will be formatter with capital F. Same one here. Let's see where else. We have two more here. And here we are already inside the text binding. So first let's make this, break this into multiple lines and add the require here, like so. And now in here we can use it. Same goes for this. And formatter. And this is a standard formatter, so we don't have to do anything. Let's save and check again. Now the formatting also works for the detail page. And one thing I missed, I believe, we have another asynchronous code in the details controller here on press suspend. So let's also convert this. Let's make it an async method. And in here we can simply await or action.invoke. And then we can move this to rest basically from the callback function here outside. Let's quickly test that one as well. Let's suspend Davis. Suspended, formatting works, suspend works. And we do have to refresh on the main page, but we can see it was successful. With that done, we have only two files which we didn't convert, create controller and edit controller, but there is nothing special about them that we haven't already covered. So I will leave those two for you, but I will also put the final version into GitHub if you would like to check. And that would be it for this video and this section. See you in the next one.